Ji, Assalamu alaikum. If I can request everyone to please settle down, we'll just start in 1 to 2 minutes at maximum. Thank you. Ji, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, everyone. And on the behalf of SDPI, welcome back to today's conference on China's Global Development Initiative and the 5 East Framework, strategic synergy for Pakistan's economic transformation. And this session is particularly a roundtable discussion on energy cooperation between Pakistan and China. Now, just before going to that, I'll perhaps take a couple of minutes just to describe, because I know many of the speakers as well as the audience are joining us for this session. So I'll just try to kind of recap what has been discussed. Perhaps not discussed, but was the agenda for the discussion during the first half or the larger half of the conference today. If I could just request MIS team to share a quick slide deck we have just developed. So, I mean, the basic idea behind today is that uh, Pakistan and China, I mean, if you look at the cooperation between the two countries, it actually goes way back. And a lot of the people sitting in the room have actually played a very substantial role into this one. Now, if you kind of look at, just to kind of recap some of the very key pillars of when we actually talk about the China's Global Development Initiative, and at the same time, the counter for Pakistan for this is basically Pakistan's economic transformation plan, or Udan Pakistan 2024 to 2029. So these are some of the very key indicators that we actually have been discussing today, leading from industrialization, development of a digital economy, green development, and the climate change. And I mean, same if you look at the 5 E's for Udan Pakistan, it also has exports, Pakistan, environment, energy, equity, and kind of targets how Pakistan actually has to become that 3 trillion techno economy, and have to reach the target of 60 billion in annual exports. So that is again basically the idea. And if you look at Pakistan and China, the cooperation between the two countries go a lot way back. Now, if you look at the strategic synergic objectives, what we actually have been discussing in how to evaluate and align, that is how do we actually map the GDI financing and technical cooperation directly to Pakistan's structural national priorities. For this, we actually have been discussing in the morning how those different financing instruments between the both countries kind of align. We talked about a number of financial instruments, especially the recent developments around the Ponda bonds that has actually been happening. Then we have actually learned shared insights of these from both countries, where we have actually explored and scaled some multilateral platforms for global South industrial development. And again, we've also discussed a number of challenges that do exist that are kind of hindering the technology transfer and long-term macroeconomic stability within Pakistan. But I'll just perhaps, next slide, I'll just stop here to also perhaps touch upon what is exactly happening between Pakistan and China, because when we actually talk about CPEC, what we generally focus on is the G2G arrangement and what has actually happened within these defined projects that come under the CPEC, that were coming under the CPEC 1.0. But if you look at the overall cooperation and the way engagements between the two countries is happening, it's again happening a lot differently. I think the team from Renewables First as well as Pride is here. They all, again, even perhaps now all of us, how energy landscape, particularly what we have been talking as of now, has substantially shifted because of what we actually, or what we term as the solar rush in Pakistan. And just perhaps, if you look at the amount of the financing that the people themselves have actually generated for the solar PV uptake, that as compared to overall financing, that's again a lot comparative as if you look at the overall financing that has come to Pakistan within the CPEC framework, particularly within the energy sector. And the financing that the people have actually generated isn't actually framed or modeled in the same way as the guarantee backed financing that is coming into the CPEC. So what is actually happening is that the nature of the investments, I mean, if you look at the solar uptake of Pakistan, I mean, if you look at the import numbers, we have already crossed 55 gigawatt of imports coming in from China. And if you look at, I mean, of around 33 gigawatt is already installed. But if you look at the import number, that is even much higher than what is Pakistan's total installed commercial capacity. So again, the nature of the engagement, the nature of investments coming to Pakistan from China has actually now shifting from a G2G or government to a B2B mode. So that is something happening, and it's perhaps happening for the good. So yeah, you can just perhaps see some of these corporations, how they actually are being changed. Next slide. I don't know if this slider is not working, Umesh. So again, just we have tried summarizing few of the things, what was there in the legacy model that existed, and what exactly is the emerging reality or the cooperation that is happening between the two countries. Previously, it used to be a very centralized model, a very utility scale model. But now what we are actually seeing is the focus of investments going towards perhaps more decentralized systems. The focus of investment is going towards perhaps more small scale solutions, such as the battery energy storage systems are there. There's a lot of surge of investments coming from China in Pakistan's electric vehicle sector. The solar PV is already a well-known story. Then at the same time, previously, the investments that were there were heavily focused or skewed towards the large scale. There were a number of renewable projects, especially Zubairi Saab is here. But beyond that, a lot of investments actually went to the coal infrastructure for the development of coal, which at time did added to the energy security of Pakistan. But now the focus of green CPEC as well as the corporation is a lot towards the green investments. The third thing, the nature of the financing. Previously, again, it was a lot sovereign debt lending. And even if you look at the nature of the investments, that was a lot different to what we actually see as of now. So that is again how the model is changing. And perhaps this is again a very right time where we actually need to discuss how the new energy cooperation between Pakistan and China should look like. What should be perhaps the financing framework we should be looking into. Next slide. If we can just perhaps go to the next slide. So yes, I'll just perhaps stop there before we go to the panel discussion today. So Basically, the need that we actually have is to redefine the cooperation model where that has to go forward. We need to look into the financial realignment, where we need to move perhaps from the traditional centralized project debt and move perhaps towards the deployment of innovative blended finance and green capital instruments. There's already an emerging debate, perhaps not just in Pakistan, but now it's also something that is happening in China. How do you actually uh, go away from the carbon intensive fossil fuel projects as well? Then it's about the technology and distributed infrastructure, which is again that I already discussed in a previous slide, moving away from the utility towards more decentralized systems. Where again, there's a lot of discussion happening. And even if you look at the recent figures that are in the PSDP program of Pakistan, again, the investments, they're not towards the generation anymore. They're more towards the improvement of grid flexibility. They're more towards the, even we actually have the first pilot BESS system as well. And also, again, even in the morning, we actually have been discussing a lot about what is happening or what needs to happen within the special economic zones of Pakistan. So where do the opportunities exist where Pakistan can perhaps not just import, but even localize or internalize the value chain of solar and EV within Pakistan? And the last is, if we're actually, how do this new cooperation model can actually be framed? So, I mean, beyond the BRI, it can actually serve as a model that can actually be replicated within the other BRI countries. So with this will be, so that was again a very quick discussion what we actually have been having. For this session, we'll particularly be focusing on the energy part of the discussion. And we're again very pleased to have with us a lot of experts. We're very pleased to have with us the Mr. Shahjahan Saab. He's the former managing director of Private Power Infrastructure Board. We have Zubairi Saab. I think Zubairi Saab has been very kind to be a part of most of the dialogues we do around the Pak China Corporation. We're very pleased to have also Dr. John Zaib Saab. Thank you so much for joining us. He's from Power Planning and Monetary Company, PPMC, and our civil society. We also have a representative from Pakistan Solar Association, Mr. Ahmed Saab, joining us online. But beyond that, we do have a lot of civil society experts, mainly Ms. Amara and Amna from Pride, and Ms. Iza and Shiraz from Renewables First. But just to kick off the discussion, we do have a brief presentation from Zubairi Saab. So Zubairi Saab, I'll request you to please join us over here, and the MIS team, if you could please display those slide deck as we move towards the discussion. So thank you so much, Zubairi Saab. If you could please join us at the stage and set the scene for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Wetsab. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great privilege for me to participate in this important conference. Today, I would like to share how Pakistan-China Energy Cooperation model has transformed Pakistan power sector, strengthened energy security, and can now serve as a practical model for supporting China's GDI and Pakistan 5E framework. So I think most of the things you understand, it has been stated in the morning session. The most important thing is that GDI priorities and Pakistan 5ES framework have some common objectives. These objectives are industrialization, digital transformation, green development, climate resilience, shared prosperity. Energy is the enabler that connects all these objectives together. Now, GDI and Pakistan 5E framework complement each other. Energy Corporation is the bridge between the two. Now, before 2000, I will be talking only specific related to the energy only. Before 2013, there was a tremendous power crisis in Pakistan. There were severe power shortages. There was a load shedding for about 12 to 18 hours. Industries were not moving because of the power crisis. There was a difficulty in financing the mega projects, particularly coal-fired power projects. So Pakistan development potential remained constrained by inadequate energy infrastructure. Now, in 2014, Government of Pakistan and Government of China signed a CPEC agreement, which was a great success. Under CPEC, investment of more than $35 billion has come up in the power sector. More than 8,900 megawatts of projects have been commissioned, and more than 5,000 megawatts of the projects are in pipeline. A major transmission line project, which is 660 HVDC transmission line, Matiari Lahore transmission line, was completed. This was the first 500 kV for 660 kV HVDC line, which has a capacity of more than 4,000 megawatts. It improved energy security and system reliability. It completely eliminated chronic load shedding. CPEC helped eliminate chronic load shedding and restored investors' confidence. Now, basically, evolution of Pakistan-China Energy Cooperation has two phases. First phase is from 2013 to 2025. It is focused on generation projects, transmission line projects, and energy security. Second phase is from 2026 onwards. It focuses on green growth, industrialization, energy transition, technology cooperation. Now, for first phase, energy cooperation was the beginning. For second phase, economic transformation is the destination. Now, the key features of the Pakistan-China Energy Cooperation model are that it is based on a long-term vision. It is government to government, and in this case, it has a tremendous support of both Government of Pakistan and Government of China. It is a robust public-private partnership framework. It is competitive and sustainable financing is available. Technology transfer and capacity building. It is a win-win cooperation for both China and Pakistan. Pak-China Energy Cooperation is not only an investment model, but it is a development model. The main success of this model is based on the strategic vision, a strong political commitment from both Government of China and Government of Pakistan, and availability of the competitive financing and mutual trust between the two and the technology. This model can be easily replicated in other sectors also because it has a success story. Now, CTG is the largest Chinese investors in clean and green energy technologies in Pakistan. It has investments in Pakistan for more than $6 billion. For the time being, the portfolio of the CTG projects in Pakistan is about 2,600 megawatt. These are 6 projects. 3 are wind power projects based on basically wind, and they are located in Jhimpir. And 3 are hydel projects. One is Karot, the other is Kohala, and third is Mahal project. These projects have provided tremendous benefits to the local community. Local people were hired during construction, around 5,000 people. Even at this point in time, more than 80% of the local people have been hired to operate the project. A lot of activities for the community has been undertaken. Hospitals have been constructed, schools have been constructed, bridges have been constructed, parks have been constructed. A lot of activities has been done. So CTG is a leading example of the success of Pakistan China Energy Corporation. Now, the Karot is the CPEC flagship project of the CTG. Its capacity is 720 megawatt. It was commissioned in year 2022, much ahead, 1 year ahead of the scheduled time. It is providing reliable power for the last 4 years. It has generated employment, local employment. It has generated it has basically done a lot of activities related to local infrastructure, and they have made in various skills. And this is the only project which is environmental conscious. It has done biodiversity management plan, which is implemented. And it is the project which will displace about 3.5 million tons of carbon dioxide. Karot hydropower project has demonstrated how energy investment creates economic, social, and environmental value. Sorry. Now, energy supports all E's of the 5E framework. Exports are totally dependent on energy. Reliable and affordable energy is required for exports. E-Pakistan means digital power infrastructure can only be developed with the support of the electricity. Environmental clean energy means hydropower, wind, solar. Energy means strengthening the energy security. And equity means creating jobs, promoting regional development. Energy is not only is not one of the 5 E's, it is enabler of 5 E's. Now, Pakistan China Energy Corporation directly contributes to China's GDI. It supports industrialization. It supports green development. It supports environment. It supports climate resilience and capacity building. Energy cooperation is transforming GDI principles to tangible development outcomes. Now, the foundation of the Pakistan industrial transformation is based on reliable, affordable, and clean energy enablers, which are export-oriented manufacturing, digital economy and artificial intelligence infrastructure, green manufacturing, critical minerals and value addition, green industrialization, employment, and regional development. So reliable energy is the foundation of industrialization, innovation, sustainable economic growth. Now, CPEC 2, from power generation to green industrialization. Strategic priorities for the next phase of Pakistan-China economic cooperation. The priorities are solar PV manufacturing, battery manufacturing, green hydrogen, artificial intelligence, powered industries, critical mineral processing. The future of cooperation lies in industrialization, innovation, and green growth. Now, what policy actions should be taken? Some priority policy actions has been suggested to accelerate economic transformation, which are energy security, which includes accelerated hydropower, wind power, and solar power development, expanding transmission line infrastructure, develop energy storage, green industrialization, which means develop solar manufacturing, promote battery production, establish critical mineral processing. Innovation and human capital means strengthen the technology transfer, promote the joint research and development, and investment in skill development. The right policies will transform energy cooperation into sustainable economic prosperity. Now, the conclusion. The conclusion is that Pak-China Energy Corporation has successfully addressed Pakistan power shortages. Reliable, clean, and green energy now should be used to promote industrialization, digital transformation, and green energy development. China's GDI, CPEC 2, and Pakistan 5Es framework provide a common roadmap for future collaboration. Next phase of cooperation should support Pakistan long-term economic transformation. So the bottom line is that first phase of energy cooperation eliminated Pakistan homes and industries. Next phase should power Pakistan economic transformation and shared prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zubairi Saab. And again, reiterate the last point that, I mean, if you look at the landscape of the energy sector of Pakistan, the economic transformation is going to come from the industrial transformation you need to bring in. So, but again, I'll kind of continue on the point that Zubairi Saab mentioned in second last slide that was around what again, if you look at the in energy sector, if you look at the power sector, which are the key areas where Pakistan and China needs further cooperation. I mean, there's again, just like even I mentioned, Zubairi Saab mentioned that energy has remained a very central point of the Chinese investment. But what are the key thematic areas we have as of now? And perhaps what should be the investment or the financing framework that we actually need to follow? Because very likely the models that we were using in the conventional might not actually work. So going forward with this debate, let me firstly come to the team of renewables first. I think we have Mr. Shiraz with us. So Shiraz, again, taking perhaps responding to the same question, that as per your perspective, what are the areas of thematic areas of cooperation between Pakistan and China? If you're looking into some of the, I mean, early perhaps next 5 to 10 years, and how do you feel should be the engagement framework between the both countries to kind of expedite those initiatives? Yeah, over to you, Shiraz. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ubed. And yes, as Zubairi Saab rightly pointed out, that Energy Corporation has been a bridge between the two countries from the last, ever since the CPEC started. So we have around $28.4 billion dollars of investment within the energy sector out of the overall 70 billion that has been invested from the Pak-China CPEC frameworks. And then in the last 10 years or so, we have around 13 gigawatts of the capacity added. Now, going forward, as we see that after the Pakistan solar rush, a lot of those opportunities for industrial transformation has been significantly changed, because we have come a long way from those large-scale massive energy projects or the IPP-led projects that we had initially in the CPEC first phase. And now as we move towards the distributed energy ecosystem development within the country, so those priority areas have been changed, and the landscape has entirely shifted. So what we see at Renewables First, so we did this market scoping and opportunity analysis with a lot of stakeholder consultations in Pakistan, across China, and then trying to find out those niche areas or the priority areas that you're sort of pointed out for the next few years. And a key thing that we are also seeing based on the market trends is the energy storage segment of the industry, where we are seeing the imports are sort of accelerating, like we see in the solar rush a few years back. So Pakistan has already around $1 billion of lithium-ion battery imports in the last few years, and the number jumped over 100% in last 1 year. So that is again one of the priority segments for industrial localization, where we are seeing a lot of momentum going forward in the industry. And then number two would be the EVs and the charging infrastructure for that. So we see that again, just like batteries, EVs are witnessing a sort of similar rush in Pakistan with its new electric vehicle policy that targets around 30% of EV sales in by 2030. So that gives that policy stability, and it also sort of translated and translates to what we are witnessing in the import numbers. So for EV two-wheeler imports, we are already seeing a 3x jump or a 300% increase from 2024 to 2025, and the number jumped to around over 100,000 two-wheeler vehicles deployed in the market or sold in the market in last 1 year. And then from January to March onward, we are seeing around 44,000 of those vehicles again sold in the market. So number two would be the definitely EVs two-wheeler segment, where the market growth is there, where the policy is there, and then the industrial localization could happen. And then maybe on the broader framework of let's say next 5 to 10 years, we can see a lot of innovations happening within the joint testing and R&D ecosystem and facilities, and then IoT infrastructure as we move towards the flexible grids for demand side management, for grid flexibility, because the distributed solar, as I mentioned earlier, has changed the market dynamics quite far. So these are like the priority segments. And then based on our conversations with the Chinese partners, what we are seeing is that again, for China, in order to engage with China, what we need to do essentially is to prioritize these niche areas, these high impact segments, instead of having those broad investment pitches that we had initially, because we do see the demand signaling within the local market. We do see the potential of these particular technologies sort of accelerating in the next few years, where the Chinese investors can come into Pakistan and have those local industries established. And then again, in order to leverage those Pak-China relationships, I believe that we also need to shift the model in which we are currently operating. So it shouldn't be all the investments coming in from China, because we see that the risk appetite of Chinese investors over the years has been decreased significantly. So there is a need to shift towards the co-development models where we can share the risks, to structure the joint venture agreements that can allow the risk sharing, that can allow the transfer of technologies, that can allow the local capacity building, and then that can allow the long-term development of industry. And last but not least, I believe that we need to also strengthen the market visibility and investment signaling for the Chinese investors. So again, in our conversations with Chinese investors or the Chinese industrial players, we see that that market visibility of Pakistan's market is not there. I mean, we were the second largest importer of solar panels last year, but when you go there and talk to Chinese industrial players, we don't see that they see Pakistan as that big of a market. So that clear market visibility and demand signaling should be there in order to sort of strengthen the local market. And then again, how to do these three things? I believe that number one, we need to develop those knowledge and market sort of practices. So more reports from the civil society, from the government, that can signal those priority market areas. And then again, for Chinese investors to come into any country and to invest into any country, they need a clear policy sort of visibility, policy roadmap, where they can sort of have that consistency of the policy. So that needs to be there. So policy and stakeholder alignment. And then we talk a lot about those investment facilitation platforms or those one window operations, but essentially for any investor that sort of wants to come into Pakistan, they still face a lot of those hurdles in order to sort of commercialize their industrial setup. So I mean, having those one window investment facilitation facility, that is essentially one window that needs to be there. So
sure.
Again, concluding, I believe that again, prioritize those high impact areas that we see where the growth here in Pakistan, then shift to those co-development models, and then lastly, strengthen those investment and market visibility signals that can provide.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shiraz. No, very, very pertinently. And yeah, so I'll take this discussion to Professor Dr. Ishan from the University of Bath. Dr. Ishan has joined us online. Dr. Ishan, are you with us? Yes, perfect. Really good to see you again. So, Dr. Ishan, taking lead from what Shiraz has already mentioned regarding the significance of the solar PV, I think both you as well as a colleague from the Pakistan Solar Association are present. So, I mean, I'll make a little bit connect, particularly under the GDI. So, as Pakistan kind of seeks to operationalize its clean energy transition, How do you think can bilateral frameworks under the GDI be governed to localize, to particularly localize the clean tech value chain? I mean, spanning from the upstream components to end of life recycling, and ensuring that these supply chains also adhere to the high national environmental standards without creating any new ecological deficits. So, firstly, Dr. Ishan, if you want to respond to
Can,
this, please.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
loud and.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thanks to SDPI for organizing this event, for knowledge exchange, but also for inviting me. It's my great pleasure to join another event organized by SDPI. I wish I could have been in person and attending this event, but unfortunately, yeah, it's a very busy period for me. I'm actually be off. I'm going to China tomorrow, so we have also a lot of engagement there. Again, also I think connecting to this topic to think about how we can so better support energy transition and also technology transfer in the context of net zero transition in the global south more generally, but Pakistan in particular. So yeah, I think regarding your question, I have broadly I want to highlight broadly 3 points. The first one is think about the GDI, could put it into the context of GDI. This is the theme of this conference. Is that GDI is it's a global broad policy framework that China has proposed and make some resources available for the development in the global south more generally. But this doesn't mean that that will directly translate into bilateral cooperation frameworks. It's up to different countries and regions to work with China and to develop more context-specific or context contingent plans. So in that case, we in the case of Pakistan, we have seen this solar boom in the last 2 years, and we have seen a lot of momentum for promoting indigenization and localization of clean technology or clean tech industries. But at the same time, how we can translate from concept into practice. I think the government, especially the regulators, need to think about what regulatory frameworks that are already in place, but that can connect to the GDI and then can accelerate the process of localizing industry, for example. This can be something related to the CPEC, something related to the special economic zone, but I think we need to translate into robust regulatory frameworks with our Chinese partners. So both from China and Pakistan to work together to think about what regulatory and policy framework that we can develop under the GDI, but for this bilateral cooperation relationship. Secondly, if we think about the clean tech industry, we know China is a dominant player in the global supply chain. China is the leader in this space. So all the countries want to learn and engage with China and then try to see if they can learn from the technology and use technology and also potentially some investment from Chinese partners. But this requires, I think, Pakistani partners or businesses to have a value proposition to their Chinese partners. I think they need to have very concrete business plan, make a business case for Chinese partners to come and to work with them to see what are the value added to have, for example, localize the production. I think this is very important. At the end of the day, I think it's also about what is viable economically. I think if it's not viable economically, I think any discussion become not meaningful at all. But I think we have to come to this B2B relationship to think about how we can make economic sense in localizing clean energy industry. I think finally, if we think about the question you are putting here, the end of life recycling and standards, I think these are the questions that have been kind of overlooked or ignored to some extent. I think it's still a very I think emerging area, I would say, for different countries and businesses to think about what they can work on and how they can promote or develop a more environmentally responsible business model. I think there is a huge potential there, given the solar boom I mentioned earlier in Pakistan, given that there have been so many solar panels and there will be also retirement of old solar panels. So how we can develop the standards, create a recycling industry which is still new. And to my knowledge, I think there is a huge potential for both countries or businesses in China and Pakistan to work together. And then standards is an important area for sure. I think it can be also a starting point to think about what standards, what regulatory frameworks that are required. But at the same time, I think also from a technology perspective, I think there are also opportunities to develop new technologies. One example here, but it's not directly related to this. Also, we have colleagues here in engineering at University of Bath developing new technologies for the recycling of plastics, recycling of solar panels, or clean energy products as well. So I think this is also new areas. I'm sure there will be opportunity for the two countries to work together. I'll probably stop here. I hope this helps us to think more what are the opportunities for both countries.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishin. On the second one, I'll come back to you shortly. But as of now, let me come to Ali Ehsan Saab from Pakistan Solar Association. So, Ali Saab, are you with us? Yes, perfect. So, Ali Saab, thank you so much for joining us. And I'll perhaps we have a two-part question from you. One is what Shiraz mentioned recently, and then mainly Dr. Ishin highlighted regarding the tech transfer. So, scaling, I mean, going beyond the solar rush has already happened. Scaling the solar adoption in Pakistan actually is now also, again, critically depend on advanced technologies such as the battery energy storage systems that can also kind of help to manage the grid stability. So if you also, just like I initially showed in the presentation around one of the GDI's focus that is on the capacity building, what particular specific technology transfer models do you think should Pakistan look into to champion that can actually champion to help the local firms transition from installing imported solar to assembling and manufacturing these best tech indigenously? And the second part, perhaps if you can also respond to, is that uh, as CPEC and GDI, many of the speakers have mentioned, as a pivot towards industrial cooperation, how can local SMEs be structurally integrated into the broader bilateral energy frameworks as well? So, Ali Saab, over to you.
Thank you. Greetings to the esteemed panelist and Chinese colleague. First of all, your question about the technology, and I majorly emphasize on the battery storage system because we have already placed the solar rush, and we have deployed around more than around second third of the grid capacity of solar. We have deployed it, and just we need is battery storage system, especially at the grid level. And I want to emphasize that we need battery storage system at the utility scale, and we are not ready for this. We need technology transfer in this area, particularly if we want to pass the solar benefit to the poor people. As one of the colleague mentioned in the previous session, that solar is the middle class household was benefited from this solarization, and this is the right time to pass this solar benefits to the poor people. And it is only done if we have best system at utility side, and if we stabilize the grid. For the technology transfer perspective, I would say we need to work with Chinese on the grid side, and we have to modernize the grid. Then we can install the best system at utility side. Utility side and the consumer side, if they go hand in hand, like solar panel on the roof of consumers and the battery and the storage at the utility side would benefit the people most, rather than if the consumer go off grid by installing the battery at their household. But this is the one perspective. And the second question, can you repeat second one?
Yeah, that was more about how can local SMEs be structurally integrated into the broader bilateral energy frameworks. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, the the SMEs. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. The SMEs. Okay. If I talk about bilateral, wait.
Oh, sorry. I guess Ehsan Saab is disconnected. We'll come back to him later. But let me also check, Dr. Ishan. I just perhaps coming very briefly once again to you, and perhaps you can make the interventions. Just like what Ali Saab was also mentioning, transitioning from an imported energy solution to a localized energy system also kind of requires some very rigorous policy alignment. So, as per your perspective, are there any specific accountability mechanisms that must Chinese investors and Pakistani regulators prioritize to ensure that this technology localization generally addresses Pakistan's socio-economic realities? Yeah.
Not too bad. Yes, I think this is a very important question. To my knowledge, I can say, I think quite confidently that from both sides, I think there is a strong willingness to support the localization of clean technologies or the technology transfer from China to Pakistan. But if you ask me about if there are any specific like policy mechanism or regulatory mechanism, I unfortunately I don't want to say there are any like already very well developed and established frameworks there. I think recently we have seen also China has developed a new guidance for overseas investment. I think technology transfer has been mentioned there. In that sense, I think what we can see also from the central government's perspective, I think this is very key for Chinese overseas engagement in a new era where we have seen a strong demand from global South countries to require China to share cutting edge technologies, especially in the clean energy supply chains. So I think what I want to be a bit more provocative here is to our Pakistani colleagues, including our colleagues in the government, working for the government, but also in the private sector, to think about how we can build this so-called like business-friendly ecosystem to facilitate technology transfer. Of course, I think we also, yeah, the regulations play a very important role there. But I think it's really to think about what are the technologies that is like that is ready to transfer. What are the resources required, including not only like financial resources, but also yeah, it's like technology readiness and also human resources available in the countries to absorb technologies coming from China. And then I think with that to develop a coherent framework, which has to be involved not only like government relations or engagement, but also I think different stakeholders, including especially business communities, but also I think in the case of Pakistan, a very vibrant civil society sector as well. I think we have also a lot of think tanks like SDPI and others, renewables first, working in this space. I think they play a very important role as well. And similarly, I think in China, there are also a lot of like service providers in the clean energy space. I think they should be also part of the discussion. And then if we can create that kind of community and build that community and to kind of let the community flourish, and then we will have a very vibrant ecosystem to support technology transfer. I'm very happy to see there are a lot of progress over the last few years, but I would say we are still at the very beginning of this journey, and we really need to be more focused and have a very clear targets of what technologies we want to start with and how we can make that happen, and then continue and strengthen our efforts. Probably stop here.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishan. Thank you so much. And if needed, we'll also come back to you. But now let's take the debate a little more towards the financing side of the thing. So I'll first come to Isa from Renewables first. Isa, again, basically, I mean, based upon all the discussion that we're actually having around the renewable energy. So if you also look at even the recent budget, if you look at the numbers, if you also look at some of the priority areas of Iran, Pakistan, and specifically how it kind of targets the renewable energy uptake. But I mean, talking particularly about the China, you actually have to channelize all that money. So, I mean, as per your understanding and perspective, how do you think and how we can actually channel the Chinese capital into these particular targets, and how because those projects needs to be a lot aligned with the China's green CPEC guidelines. If you look at the Pakistan's ecosystem or Pakistan's regulatory framework, where do you actually see those gaps exist? And what do you think must be the practical steps that can be taken to build a local financial ecosystem that is also compliant with the Chinese financing framework? And just taking the advantage of your presence, I know you've already worked around a lot around the panda bonds as well, which is again one of the very recent developments, and it's that a kind of a instrument that can actually achieve that desired level of investments going into the green sector, looking into how it has actually been launched and subscribed. So yes, Isa, over to you.
Thanks, Suved, for that question. There are two sides to it. I think one is the Panabon side, where we can probably and hopefully sustain this momentum, and the other side is building a financial ecosystem. However, they do have to go hand in hand, because when we are trying to attract Chinese investment, we need to kind of guarantee that we have the kind of systems that are conducive to investment coming into Pakistan. And if I start with the Pandabon side, as I think our colleagues know already, that it was oversubscribed for about 5 times, which is great, and a great signal to see that Chinese investors do have that appetite. But that appetite is, I think, for AAA rated bonds, that Pakistan was able to get that rating because of the guarantees that we got. And Pakistan will have to gradually either phase out these guarantees or reliance on these guarantees, or develop a kind of a local domestic guarantee system that can substitute this. And the good thing is that Pakistan already has these institutions. For example, we have Infrazamin here, and which can help us create those local credit enhancement pathways. And the only thing is that right now, what Infrazamin is doing is it's providing guarantees for PKR denominated instruments, and only for domestic lenders. We would have to expand that mandate so that it can guarantee investments, cross-border investments, RMB denominated investments, and which would need some reforms from SECP, SPP level. And if we can guarantee that, the way Infrazamin works is actually better than getting MDB guarantees, because it guarantees about 40 to 50% of the investment of the principal amount, which means it crowds in investments from other institutions like pension funds, insurance companies, which would not have access to these projects otherwise. And some of the guarantees could still come from MDBs, maybe 20, 30%. And the rest of the risk could be held by Chinese investors themselves once the second or third issuance of the bonds takes place. They would have some performance history to price against. So we already have those things in place. We just have to restructure and reform a few of the things around them. One important thing is that when these proceeds from Panda bonds came in, we didn't get a lot of disclosure regarding where those proceeds would be allocated, what projects are they being spent on. And Pakistan would have to develop something like a sustainable financing framework that allows auditable visibility for investors, so that they can also comply with their ESG requirements in China. And this has been done before in other countries, like Hungary has done this before. They issued their Panda bonds in 2021 and then again in 2022. And the demand for those bonds doubled because they were giving that auditable verification, impact assessment, independent verification for investors. And Pakistan would have to move towards that if they want to attract or keep attracting investments in the future as well. Other than that, I think, Obed, you also mentioned this, and Professor Yeshan also mentioned this, that it has to make economic sense for investors to invest in Pakistan. And we have, as Udan also mentions, that we want to target smaller scale off-grid projects. We want to move towards that rather than utility scale or government to government funding. And one key aspect of that is that there isn't as much visibility or of the pipeline of projects that investors can access. And I think one key area that we can improve on is visibility and also aggregation of smaller projects. So right now, if a business has to raise investment, they would have to raise it on their own for a very small project, which requires due diligence from investors and raises transaction costs. If we aggregate those projects, for example, there is a green investment and financing platform in China, which channels green capital. If something like that under its umbrella, if we can aggregate solar, BESS, wind projects into one instrument, it would be much easier for investors to evaluate, to do their due diligence and finance such projects. So project aggregation would create visibility, which I think is very, very important. And one key aspect is we do have a green taxonomy, but it needs to be aligned with China's green bond project catalog, so that investors are able to get that green light from within China to be able to invest in those. And yeah, and one last point from my side is that I think Shiraz also mentioned this, that we need consistency of policy. And regarding BESS projects, we already have assembly of batteries happening within Pakistan, but we right now import cells from China and only assemble them here. To develop that capacity, to be able to manufacture the cell and the battery itself within Pakistan, we need to take advantage of the technology transfer priority of GDI. And also this is, I think, something that is also mentioned under Iran. So Pakistan already has that demand. The projected demand for Pakistan is like 40 to 50 gigawatt hours by 2031. And that gives China that green signal, that demand already exists in Pakistan. The only problem is that we need to ensure that there is certainty of that demand, that demand will continue to exist, and there will be policy consistency. For example, supply side incentives like tax breaks and things like that, which would allow China to establish gigafactories within Pakistan. And yeah, and I mean, things like NEPRA's generation plans could have procurement targets for utility scale BESS projects, things like that. So that would give demand certainty, policy consistency, and coming from Pakistan's government side.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Iza. Let me just very briefly take the same question perhaps to the colleagues from Policy Research Institute of Equitable Development and Pride. So I think we do have both Amara and Amna with us. So again, we all have been actually listening into what the Chinese overall energy model is. So again, if you want to, I mean, as per your perspective, what do you think it is, and what are the spaces Pakistan kind of needs to learn from if it actually has to go forward with the energy cooperation that we actually have been talking about? And what are its political lens? What is its economic lens? If you would like to add on to those, please. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Obed. So I think, firstly, I would like to highlight a very pertinent issue that has become a reality but hasn't been mentioned right now, and that is global warming. And that is ultimately going to have an impact on our energy infrastructure, on our economy, on every aspect of life. And we're in the middle of an active El Nino, and the overall global cooling demand has risen to unprecedented rates globally. And that is, again, we are going to see a rise in electricity demand overall, whether it's the global north, whether it's the global south. And that is why energy planning specifically cannot be carried out in silos. We have to take into consideration the environmental impacts, the changing climate, the warming trends, everything, because the emissions are locked in for 100 years. We cannot do anything about that right now. Of course, we have to adapt in addition to taking up mitigation measures. And then secondly, another issue that was not in our control are external shocks like the war that we just saw and the impact that it had on the global economy. So Pakistan was impacted because of our over-reliance on imported fossil fuels. If we look at the Chinese energy model, so there are 5 distinct aspects that we've identified. So the first one is that their energy sources are very diversified. Like I'll give an example. So coal specifically is 32.4% of the China's installed generation capacity, but at the same time, solar is 30.8% at the utility scale. So and then they have wind at 16.4%. But in contrast, Pakistan has 18.4% that includes local and imported coal installed capacity for electricity generation, and solar is only at 2%. So there's a very sharp contrast here, and our energy is not clean, our electricity is not clean. Then also in 2025, China specifically focused on developing its green energy, green electricity, and its installed wind and solar capacity exceeded 400 gigawatt. Pakistan's solar capacity is at 780 megawatt for only the utility scale solar. And the net meter capacity is around, I think, 6 megawatt. So that's not a lot. And then overall, we are observing a coal power trend decline. Even China saw a decline in coal power generation at around 1.9% year on year in 2025. And they also reported that 4 out of 10 kilowatt hour of total electricity consumption was powered by green sources in China. So that is one aspect of Chinese energy model, that they have robust alternatives available. And since the whole world is phasing out coal and thermal power generation, they will still remain relevant. Their products will still remain relevant once CBAM is implemented. But probably Pakistan is going to face the brunt of it because we don't have cleaner energy in our grid, cleaner infrastructure. Then the second one is they are in a state of perpetual transition. Like I just mentioned, the stats that China added 400 gigawatt of clean energy capacity. Then the third one is, I think that is a major issue that is very evident in every sector of Pakistan, is that devolution of energy decision in China is delegated to local government. They are more autonomous in their decision making. But here in Pakistan, I know there are issues with between the federal government and the provinces. A lot of things are not delegated, and if some things are delegated, then maybe they don't have the capacity or don't have the finances to carry it out. So that is something Pakistan can learn from. Indigenous knowledge, local knowledge, on-ground practical realities are very different from what we are observed from here in the federal. And then there's also constant research and development, innovation in the Chinese market. Shiraz mentioned a lot about the market area, so I'm not going to go into that. That is something that is very important. Chinese economy and Chinese electricity consumption is very much industry focused. So in Pakistan, our electricity consumption is 46% goes towards the domestic sector, which is very non-productive compared to 28% that goes towards the industry. Conversely, when we look at the Chinese sector or the Chinese electricity market, 15% goes to the domestic sector, but the rest of it, most of it, is going to industrial activity, towards economic growth. So that is why the economy is so strong and emerging. So that is something Pakistan can learn from China again. And Isa talked about all the financing instruments and mechanisms that are available. So their Chinese energy finance is very localized. So they are not reliant on external financing as much as Pakistan is. So I think maybe setting up something like a one-window facilitation center or something like a public-private partnership to facilitate this energy transition while considering climate resilience and adaptation, an infrastructure that takes into consideration that in a warming world, we are going to face more and more issues. The peak electricity demand We already have the duck curve issue. So that is only going to get worse if our cooling demands increase in the summer specifically. So that is, these are a few things that I had
Sure.
in mind. So back to you.
Perfect.
Ben.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amara, for bringing this to the forum. Now, before going to the government PPMC, we have let us come to Shah Jahan Mirza Sahab. Sir, thank you so much once again for joining us. I think, I mean, from you have been also engaged within the CPEC. PPIB has been hosting its the committee within the Planning Commission for a long time now. I mean, one thing that is clear is that the energy investments are kind of shifting. The arrangements are getting a little different. The mode is getting a little different. So within the whole this development, and also what I think Dr. Ishan and the speakers have mentioned, how do you think Pakistan can kind of position itself as a very as a now as a preferred destination for China's investments under CPEC 2.0 and the GDI framework that I've been talking about? And as per your, I mean, expertise, if there are any policy or regulatory reforms that uh, are very critical for achieving this. So, and beyond that, sir, if you have any reflections or suggestions on what the other speakers have mentioned. So, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ubaid. It's always a pleasure to be here in this kind of forum arranged by various institutions like Pride, STPI. So I think so much has been said. Probably there's very little which I can additionally contribute. But I think since we are discussing the energy model with the China, uh, I was involved with the CPEC since 2013 and 14 from PPIB Forum, and all the power projects which have been set up in Pakistan that have gone through the PPIB during my tenure. So if you allow, I will take few minutes actually just to step back and reflect upon that what we have done in the CPAC and what were the strength and why we have been successful. And since I have been involved in the process fully, I think it's time to take stock of that. What were the weaknesses of that program? So where we made some mistakes, which we should not be doing in the next CPAC phase 2. So as the Verisab has told, we have done 18 projects. We have done 9,000 megawatt of the capacity, about 28 billion US dollar of direct investment. But this all investment came under the G2G framework, and the structure of financing was a typical tried and tested structure of limited recourse financing, where the PPA were backed by the government of Pakistan guarantee, and the lenders' investment was backed by the insurance by the Chinese company. So this is, I think, the model which we have adopted, which is tried and tested model, and it was quite successful in bringing in $28 billion of investment. But where we have gone wrong, I think if we go out of this room and we talk to the general people, the common man who are actually the electricity consumer, I don't think most of them have good opinion about the CPEC and about the new electricity generation which have been added in the grid. The perception is that this is very expensive energy. This was not required. We have done wrong by putting in the coal power plants and so on and so forth. But just taking the stock of the things that where we have gone wrong, I think we have terribly gone wrong in terms of our planning. So we have learned that in 2012, 13, 14, when this CPAC was planned, we were facing about 12 to 18 hours of load shedding. If you remember, even in Islamabad, posh areas, we had 1 hour off and 1 hour on. So 12 hours of load shedding and 12 hours of electric supply. So in that situation, when the government was planning to set up these power plants, the top priority was what can come the earliest. Because when we're talking about 12-hour load shedding, so you can imagine that apart from the common man, they are suffering at the domestic user, but what the industry and the commercial institutions were suffering because of this load shedding. So looking at it in good faith, the priority was to get whatever could come very, very early and very, very quickly. So we work on that, and Alhamdulillah, we are successful when we say that we have set up 9,000 megawatt of power plants. So in this, I think there are a lot of successes which we have made as a country and as a friendship and economic relationship with Pakistan. If we look at Pakistan started exploring about 40, 50 years dormant charcoal, which is not a good word in terms of when we talk about the clean energy. But this is, I think, one of the greatest achievements that we have been used the local indigenous resource, which was dormant for 40, 50 years. Then we were actually able to bring in the first transmission line in the private sector, which is a first HVDC transmission line and which is first transmission line in the private sector. We together with the Chinese government and Chinese companies support, we were able to set up actually the world record, the Sahiwal coal power project. That is a world record that it was set up in 27 months. Even in China, a 1320 megawatt power project was not set up in 27 months. So that is the other achievement. And other than that, I think the CPEC portfolio, though we mostly talk about the coal, is a bouquet of all the technologies. If we look at, we have wind power projects there, we have solar power projects, we have the two largest hydro private sector power projects of Suki Kanari 884 megawatt and 720 megawatt. We have solar wind projects. So every technology is there. So that has helped Pakistan actually at that time to eliminate the load shedding and bring in more and power sufficiency. So where we have gone wrong, I think we have gone wrong in terms of what I generally say, that the power sector in the PPIB delivered what it was required to do. So we met the target of setting up the power plant, but where we went wrong, that the other arms of the government, the other institution of the government did not support us. We were talking about 9 SCZs since 2013. None of them is operational today. Partially two are operational, Rashkai and the other one, they are very partially operational. So we were planning these 9 SCZ, we were looking at the GDP growth of 5%, we were looking at the relocation of the Chinese industry to Pakistan, but we could not do anything. I think the failure is on our part, because in the terms of SCZ and industrial estates, we have made it a real estate business. So people which never want to set up, they don't have the capability to set up the industry, they buy plots there and then sell it at 10 time and 20 time prices. So when you talk to the Chinese, they say that this model is actually wrong. This is a real estate business. If we want to develop the industrial states in Pakistan, we need to give the land on the lease, a very, very nominal lease, and that should be plug and play. So the investor don't have to invest billions of rupees in terms of buying the land and then looking out for the electricity connection and then looking for the gas connection and so on and so forth. So I think that's another area where we have gone on. So these two things which we could not do, that was the probably creation of demand. We could not create the demand through the industrial setup, and we could not actually diversify our demand. Even today, we know that Pakistan is one of the lowest per capita electricity consumption countries. But again, we have set up all this. We have achieved these milestones, and at that time, I think the energy sufficiency and the energy security was the problem. But now I think we have different targets, which is the today's priorities. I think that is affordable electricity, because our electricity have gone expensive. We have made contract under a fixed capacity payment, just briefly, and that was not something which was done wrong, because we are even today are operating under single buyer model. Single buyer model means that the power plant which has set up for $1 billion, that has only one buyer. If CPPA and the government do not buy from them, they don't have any other buyer. So they have to meet their fixed expenses. They have invested equity. They had got the loan. They have fixed operation and maintenance costs. So that is what the capacity payment covers. And this is the model which is globally used everywhere where there is no market. No, fortunately, we have this year, we have moved towards creation of the wholesale trading market, which will be operational in, I think, next few months. So that is a good news. But in that context, when we are in a single buyer model, that was the right model to do. Where we went wrong, as I said earlier, we could not create demand. So that means if you are paying a fixed capacity payment as a fixed charges, so it was a two-tier tariff. The fixed capacity payment for fixed expenses, loan repayment, return on equity, fixed O&M, security charges, insurance, so on and so forth. And the variable charges were for the actual generation, which was based on the fuel. So that was the model which we did. So the people who understand, I think, the economics, they will immediately pick up that if you are paying 100 rupees capacity payment and you are generating 100 units, so that means your capacity payment per unit is 1 rupee. But what has happened, instead of creating 100 units, we are actually generating 10 units. So that means what we planned and what we could have done, that 1 rupee per capacity payment per unit, that has gone to 10 rupees. So that is, I think, where we have gone wrong. And that's number one. I think the reason is that we could not create demand. And second, I think some were unforeseen, like COVID-19. Our projects start coming into operation 2017, 18, and 19, and the COVID actually slowed down the global economy, not in Pakistan. Then we've seen huge influx of solar, which is a positive thing in one way, because we have gone to the green and clean energy, but which has actually created quite a challenge for those power plants which were set up to meet this demand. So I think that's where we could not actually deliver. Some were the planning mistake, and some were the implementation mistake, that whatever we planned we could not deliver. But now I think today, if we look at the next phase, the challenge is the affordable electricity, the industrial growth, because which is basically being hindered by the higher price of electricity. Then there is a green energy is needed. We need the climate resilience. We are seeing lot of floods and lot of devastation because of this climate changes. So I think that is the area we need to concentrate. And the second part, I think, in the first CPEC, we have seen it G2G, and we have seen it basically mostly the import of the machinery, the import of the technology. Import of technology has not happened. In fact, the import of machinery has happened. So that is, the plant came and that was set up. I think in the next phase we need to be using, which has been said here many times, that we need to develop the technology transfer. We need to develop the giant industry within Pakistan, so that we can actually grow in that context also. We have imported 53, 55 gigawatt of solar panel, but no input from the Pakistan side. It was just manufactured in China and imported. So opportunities, we have already learned that there is huge opportunities in terms of battery demand in the country. Then we need to see that what could be done in terms of EV. So that is another area. And green financing and the carbon credits, transition credits, I think that's the area which is totally missing in Pakistan. Some of the projects have availed the carbon credits facility, but they're very, very limited. Even the large projects, like we look at 720 megawatt of hydropower projects of Korot, 884 megawatt of hydro project of Suki Nari. So these projects have not been able to use any carbon credits. So I think that's another area. And then we have heard the green financing also, the green bonds. We need to actually come out of the traditional financing of typical limited recourse financing, bank loan and project financing, and we look into the new areas. And what I suggest we have been trying to do with the government of China and with these projects also, that is the refinancing of these projects, because we all know then when the projects are at development stage, the risk is very high. So lenders look at those projects differently. So we need to introduce some refinancing of those loans, which could be very cheap compared to the original financing, because we have done all the financing in these projects in the commercial terms. So they are all LIBOR plus, at that time LIBOR, now it's SOFR, LIBOR plus 4.5, 4.75%. And the pity is that what we generally talk is that we have been basically fighting this point, that whenever we are developing a coal or thermal power projects, the Pakistan credit rating and Pakistan credit risk, actually we get the loans at LIBOR plus 4.5, 4.75. But at the same time, when we are developing, and we have developed the wind and solar power projects, again the lending rate has remained the same. I think that's the dichotomy we need to cover, and we need to actually talk to our lenders and financiers, and even with the Chinese government. Then when we move to the next phase, we actually need to work upon that, some concessional and green financing for renewable energy. So I think these are the few areas, and remaining, I think we in the new IGSEP, as I think the good news is the next 10-year generation expansion plan, which is still in the draft form and which is under approval. We don't have any thermal power plant except one nuclear power plant. So everything about 20,000 megawatt will come from the solar, wind, and the hydropower projects. So that is, I think, a good news. And the other thing, Shiraz talked about the distributed generation. So the government current plan is that about 8,500 megawatt is expected to come from the solar, and about 1,500 megawatt from the wind. And they will all come actually from the distributed generation. Government don't have plan to go into the long-term power purchase agreement backed by the government guarantees. So this is the structure we are moving to. Then we have in the new IGSAP about 8,000, 7,000 megawatt of grid connected battery energy storage. I think that's where future lies. And we should work upon as think tanks and the institutions who made recommendations to the government. I think you should work upon creating some sort of financing mechanism, because if people start putting up batteries at their homes and at their industry, which people are already doing that. So I think we need to work some instrument like bonds or something, that rather than people putting up their own battery at every house, we should actually put the battery at the grid level, and people should finance that. So that will be cheaper. I think because of the economies of scale, the cost will be very lower compared to individual battery of 14 kilowatt hour or 18 kilowatt hour when we put up in 100 and 1000 megawatt hour. So the price will be low, and that will provide the same benefit. We can develop some profit sharing mechanism where they can provide the same benefit to these investors who have put in the battery. So I think I stop here.
Perfect.
And then if there's some further question, I think we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shah Jahan Saab. Again, fully agree that CPEC actually was came at a time when Pakistan actually needed that security. And thank you, Shah Jahan Saab, for highlighting the new opportunities that exist. And with this, let me let me take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Bilal Mahmood Chaudhry. He's the DG China at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And just before coming to you, let me come to Dr. Jahanzeb from Ministry of Energy Power Division. Dr. Jahanzeb, so yeah, if you could just join us at the podium. So what we actually would like to hear from you is that how is the government of Pakistan, mainly the Ministry of Energy and its line departments, planning to interact with China for bringing investments within the energy sector of Pakistan? And Dr. Jahanzeb, if you also have some reflections on what the other speakers have mentioned. Thank you so much, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Pakistan-China Energy Corporation, from infrastructure to innovation. Honorable Chief Guest, Excellencies, respected colleagues from SDPI, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon. It is an honor to join you today to speak about partnership that has reshaped Pakistan's energy landscape and now stands at the threshold of a new chapter. We meet at a defining moment for global development when nations are seeking new models of cooperation to strengthen energy security, drive economic growth, and achieve sustainable prosperity. Economic uncertainty, climate change, and rapid technological disruption remind us that no nation can confront today's challenges alone. Partnership, innovation, and mutual learning are now essential. It is therefore fitting that SDPI and the Embassy of the People's Republic of China have brought us together to align two important visions: Chinese Global Development Initiative, GDI, and Pakistan's National Economic Transformation Plan under the 5Es framework. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of Pakistan-China Energy Corporation is a story of trust, consistency, and shared purpose. CPEC first phase, as our distinguished panelist has also mentioned, addressed our very important challenge of energy insecurity through major investment in power generation and transmission. Pakistan significantly reduced electricity shortages that had constrained industry, discouraged investment, and disrupted daily life. These were not only megawatts added to the grid, they restored confidence, supported industrial activity, and created the foundation for economic recovery. But every successful partnership must evolve. A decade ago, Pakistan's challenge was clear: produce more electricity. Today, the challenge is even more complex. We need a power sector that is smarter, cleaner, more efficient, and capable of supporting Pakistan's industrial competitiveness. This is the moment for a new chapter. As CPEC enters its next phase, Pakistan-China Energy Cooperation must also move forward beyond infrastructure and into innovation. Industrial collaboration, technology co-development, digital transformation, green growth, and research excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, the next generation of Pakistan-China Energy Cooperation should not be defined only by what we build. It should also be defined by what we discover, develop, and create together. One important example is the joint Pakistan-China R&D Center for Clean Energy Utilization and Development being developed by Power Planning and Monitoring Company, PBMC, and Power China. It reflects the direction in which our partnership is evolving, from project delivery to joint research, technology co-development, policy support, and human capital development. For PPMC, this also reflects a broader commitment to evidence-based planning, integrated energy modeling, and policy-oriented research for Pakistan's long-term power sector transformation. At the national level, we are developing a national power sector innovation mechanism under the R&D Secretariat. This will create a structured pathway to identify operational challenges, receive innovative solutions from utilities, academia, startups, and industry, refine them through mentorship, and move the strongest ideas towards pilot implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to briefly highlight 5 priorities for the next chapter of this partnership. First, joint research and innovation. Second, technology co-development and localization. Third, technology grid modernization and digital transformation. Fourth, green energy transition. And fifth, human capital and institutional excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, together these 5 priorities represent a new development paradigm. They shift our partnership from infrastructure to innovation, from technology transfer to technology co-development, from project delivery to institutional transformation, and from powering economies to empowering societies. This, I believe, is the true promise of CPEC 2.0. By aligning the Global Development Initiative with Pakistan's 5Es framework, and by using CPEC as a platform for research, innovation, and industrial collaboration, Pakistan and China can set a new benchmark for South-South cooperation. The success of this partnership should no longer be measured in megawatts installed or kilometers of transmission line laid. It should also be measured in technologies jointly developed, engineers jointly trained, industries jointly built, and knowledge jointly created. Together, let us build not only the energy systems of tomorrow, but also the partnership that will sustain them for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jazib, for highlighting what the Ministry of Energy is doing, and really sounds interesting, particularly the new initiative that you mentioned happening in collaboration with Power China. That's again very interesting. So once again, I would like to thank the speakers for the session on Roundtable on Energy Cooperation. Now, Bilal Sahab, just before coming to you, let me kind of provide you a very quick recap of the day that we actually had today. So we actually started with the plenary session in which we were joined by the Embassy of People Republic of China. The Deputy Chief of Mission was here, who talked about how China is kind of looking into that, both energy and economic cooperation with Pakistan, along with the representatives from the ministry, from the former ambassadors, and also the representatives of the private sector. And following that, we actually had the first roundtable discussion that was more around the economic cooperation, where we were joined by financing institutions and some of the experts that talked particularly about the recent initiative of the Panda bonds issuance in Pakistan and how we're actually looking into it. Also, how the different joint cooperation committees and working groups within the broader energy cooperation of Pakistan is looking into. And following that, we actually had a debate around the energy cooperation. But what we a couple of points that are coming constantly during the discussion were exactly that how the landscape of investments coming from China to Pakistan is shifting. I mean, previously it used to be a lot towards the high centralized utility scale projects. Now, even the nature of the investments as well as the direction and the flow of the investments is coming perhaps more towards decentralized. I mean, there is again centralized, but the smaller projects in nature, such as the solar PVs, battery energy storage systems. So those angles as well. And we also kind of looked into different opportunities and challenges that exist. So with this, sir, we'll be coming to you for your special remarks, and we'll request if you could just join us, if it pleases you, at the podium for your interventions. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Chairperson, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on one of the most important topics concerning China-Pakistan relations. I'm really honored to be speaking here today at this event. I always find it a happy moment whenever I'm given the opportunity to speak on one of the most consequential bilateral relationships which Pakistan has with other countries. I congratulate STPI for convening this event on a topic of critical importance. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a brief background of China-Pakistan relationship. When we talk of this bilateral relationship, it is defined by three key elements: mutual trust, mutual benefit, and mutual cooperation. Now, these three key elements define the shared interests between our thoughts, our ideas, our conceptions, our visions. These three pillars provide a useful background as we explore the synergies between China's GDI and Pakistan's 5Es framework for economic transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan fully supports the China's visionary call for building a community with a shared future for mankind. Pakistan was among the first countries to extend its support to the GDI and became one of the first members of the GDI's group of friends at the United Nations. This consistent and early partnership exemplifies our shared priorities on international development. At the core of this partnership, of course, lies the CPEC, a flagship expression of our all-weather strategic cooperative partnership. Over the past decade, CPEC has made a vital contribution to Pakistan's economic landscape. And I'm sure my colleagues who have spoken earlier have dealt with this topic at length. They must have shared that CPEC has made a vital contribution on transport and energy infrastructure and the people's livelihoods in Pakistan. Today, we are moving into CPEC 2.0 with shared priorities on industrialization, agriculture modernization, IT, and human resource development. And I must share with you that it might be important to go through the China's 15th five-year plan to exactly identify the priorities enlisted in that plan as well. So you will find a lot of commonalities when you go through that plan as well. Now, this brings me to the core of today's discussion, the complementarities between China's GDI and Udan Pakistan. This mutual convergence between the two frameworks is strategic and mutually reinforcing. As the moderator had clearly mentioned, that there is a significant shift in terms of priorities in China's investments coming to Pakistan. And I will try to deal with this topic in my statement. So first, let's see how industrialization and exports are coming up. Now, both frameworks prioritize industrial cooperation, opening space for Pakistan to expand its manufacturing base, strengthen value chains, and foster an export-oriented economy. There is a growing B2B cooperation between Chinese and Pakistani enterprises. From automotive assembly to pharmaceutical production, joint ventures are taking root across multiple sectors. In fact, we have planned to organize one B2B event, major B2B event on pharmaceuticals next month in Karachi, where we are expecting over 100 Chinese enterprises to participate. Earlier, during high-level visits from Pakistan, especially by the Prime Minister, we have been organizing B2B events in China, where there has been significant amount of commitments and MOUs signed by the enterprises from both sides. So there is a surge when it comes to investments in the industrial sector. Second is the digital economy and e-Pakistan. From IT and AI to e-commerce and cloud computing, our partnership with China is seeking to equip Pakistani youth and startups with skills and platforms to compete globally. Through collaboration in infrastructure, cooperation is expanding to facilitate fintech growth, IT export sector, and new opportunities for our freelance community, ensuring that Pakistan's digital economy is inclusive, resilient, and futuristic. Third is climate change and green development. Both frameworks are aligned on renewables, climate resilience, water management, and food security. Here I would highlight the conceptual framework of Chinese leadership. They have outlined a concept titled New Quality Productive Forces, where China is focusing more on new technologies. Instead of just the GDP, they are focusing on improving the quality of lives of people. Efficiency, how to improve the output through mechanization, through AI. And I think there is a lot of room for strategic cooperation between the two sides. And we are committed to working on it. Now, as Pakistan has been one of the most affected countries of climate change, cooperation in this area remains critical for our long-term economic and ecological development. By pooling China's technological expertise and modern techniques with Pakistan's enabling policy framework in clean energy and agricultural sectors, we are aiming to build a cleaner, greener, and more resilient Pakistan for generations to come. Fourth, people-centric development. Ladies and gentlemen, true resilience is measured by the well-being of our people. That is why people-centric development is at the heart of both the GDI and the 5Es framework, particularly the pillar of equity and empowerment. Through CPAC 2.0, livelihood corridor has been introduced. This signifies, in terms of Chinese narrative, small and beautiful projects which they are introducing in partnership with Government of Pakistan, which includes building of hospitals, schools, and vocational training institutes. Initiatives like the Prime Minister's program that sent 1,000 young agricultural practitioners to China, and Huawei's training initiatives for our IT professionals are concrete examples of this shared vision. Ladies and gentlemen, the synergies which I have just shared with you are not coincidental. They are a natural outcome of a shared vision. For decades, Pakistan and China have walked together as iron brothers, their partners, who have stood shoulder to shoulder through every trial and triumph. When we speak of the GDI and 5Es, we are speaking of two frameworks that spring from the same philosophical foundation. That development must be inclusive, sustainable, and people-centric. Both frameworks recognize that our shared challenges of climate change, food security, and technological innovation demand collective actions. As we enter the second phase of CPAC, this alignment of priorities matters more than ever. This GDI gives us global momentum and resources, which China has dedicated. And our 5Es framework gives us the national roadmap to channel these resources from China to our industries, our farms, our schools, and our digital economy. Together, these frameworks ensure that our partnership remains vibrant, dynamic, responding to the needs of the time. It creates jobs, expands opportunity, and builds a more resilient and bright future for the people of China and Pakistan. Our shared journey will continue to be defined by joint purpose, sustained commitment, and relentless efforts. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bilal Saab, for again such an excellent conclusion of today's dialogue. And I don't guess, following that, I don't have anything to further add on that hasn't actually been reflected. And really pleased to see such wonderful initiatives being taken by the government of Pakistan. So I think once again, from my end, it has been again a very wonderful discussion, a lot of key takeaways coming from it. And just like I think Bilal Saab also mentioned, over the coming days, SDPI would also be hosting some of the Chinese businesses in Pakistan, having their interaction with a lot of government counterparts over the coming months as well, and will be definitely be keeping you all of you updated with the recent developments. And just recently, SDPI has also published a number of reports around particularly the reforms agenda for the CPEC 2.0 as we go forward with this discussion. So once again, thank you. And for the formal vote of thanks, let me invite Dr. Sajid Amin Javed, Deputy Executive Director Research at SDPI, for the final vote of thanks and the concluding of the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and very good afternoon. I think I always start. I'm thankful to Ubaid that he always gives me the most beautiful job of thanking all distinguished panelists, audience, those who bring very valuable contributions to take this agenda of Pakistan-China cooperation forward. Let me formally thank Embassy of China, Islamabad, partnering with SDPI. And this, I think it goes long beyond these discussions and beyond this event. It's a continued discussions that SDPI and Embassy of China continue to play. And I think this is very important. And these discussions are coming at a very critical point, important point in CPAC 2.0, And I think one core message that I see is reflected from today's discussions as I was following with the team as well, that now it is time to go beyond G2G cooperation and B2B cooperation. That I think is the most critical part. And that is actually the part which will shape the outcomes of CPAC 1.0, all of infrastructure development that we have done. So I think this discussion should continue. The positive point here is that Pakistan and China do share a very common goal of shared prosperity, not only in the global south, but across, and China is leading. So Pakistan's continued economic cooperation with China in the most latest in the pharma CPAC 1.0 gives a leverage. And I think lastly, the kind of, if we see the priority areas of GDI and the Planning Commission of Pakistan, Jordan Pakistan plan, there's very hardcore synergies, energy, environment, climate change, so all equity and all this one. So I think the ground is ready. This is how integrated effort we can make to integrate these all areas in one coherent framework that it builds on B2B cooperation, taking benefit from the last CPAC 1.0. So my special thanks to also all the speakers and panelists, those who have joined us since morning, but particularly to the last session, because the post-lunch session are the most difficult sessions, both for speaker and the audience, and particularly for the speaker. No matter how good speaker you are, it really takes an extra mile to keep the post-lunch audience engaged. So special thanks to the last speakers, Professor Yishan from University of Bath, Mr. Shahjahan Mirza Saab. We continue to listen, sir, your insightful contributions. Farming Managing Director, Private Power and Infrastructure Board, PPIB. Ali Ehsan Saab from Pakistan Solar Association. N.A. Zubairi Saab, Senior Advisors, China, Three Gorges. Amara Aslam Sahiba from Policy Research Institute for Equitable Development, Pride, and Mohammad Shiraz Amar Saab, Associate Energy and Climate Renewable First. And particularly, I think one of the key factor in a very good relation with China, the excellent job that our Foreign Affairs MOFA was doing. And recently, I mean, we all see, and even beyond China, excellent job done. So very special thanks to Bilal Mahmood Chaudhry Saab, DG China Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for joining us and staying with us this one. And my last thanks to particularly to you, because I always believe that the discussions are as good as is the audience. So a very special thanks to all people on the other side of the table, and to Ubaid, his team, Saira, Ali, and all SDPI team, those who have been behind this one-day conference in a very hot, burning summer, providing us this very excellent discussion. So once again, on behalf of Embassy of China, our partner, and SDPI, on behalf of the team, I am thankful to all of you for all the contributions that you have been making. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everyone, and please do join us for the tea. Thank you.